Hey guys, so for today's video we have another live finger and brush swatch video, and as you can see it's of the new Too Faced Forbidden Fruitcake palette that they've released for the holiday season here. So I purchased this from Ulta. I think Ulta is the only place where you can purchase this currently, and it retails for $27. However, I was able to get it for 20% off. You can try the code INSPIRED20 to see if that works for you. So I think I ended up paying like $21 or so, which I thought was obviously a little bit better than $27. So as I said, it's only at Ulta. I don't think even the Too Faced website is carrying it. And I'm not normally a huge Too Faced fan. I think a lot of their marketing is a little gimmicky, not that this isn't, but for some reason this palette just kind of drew me in. Fun fact, my husband is from the UK, and fruitcake doesn't seem to have a bad rap in the UK, which is kind of funny to me. Maybe that's why I went for it, because it's, I guess, a little bit more of a traditional British dessert. So it says, Too Faced took the classic Christmas treat with the bad rep everybody loaves, L-O-A-F-S, to hate, and turned it into the Forbidden Fruitcake mini eyeshadow palette of your Yuletide dreams, with rich, warm, delectable shades and pops of sweet color nobody can resist. So they say it's a mini 8-well eyeshadow palette full of warm and cozy shades inspired by the classic holiday treat. They are creamy powders with high pigment one swipe payoff, and it's a full coverage multi-finish palette with matte, shimmer, and metallic shades. And this palette does contain carmine, so it's not vegan. So I think that's essentially it for the palette. I'll read you the shade descriptions as I go through them, but it is quite a mini palette. So I'm pretty zoomed in at the moment. Just zoom out a little bit. So for some comparison here, it's about 4 inches across by a little over 2.5 inches, maybe 2 3/4 lengthwise. And just for, again, some comparison, this is the Naked mini palette that just came out fairly recently, and you can see, I mean, this is just the outer packaging, but the Fruitcake palette is just a tad bit shorter and it's a little bit taller. This Urban Decay palette contains 6 shades, whereas the Too Faced contains 8. Okay, so just taking a look at the outer packaging here, it says Too Faced Forbidden Fruitcake, and it says Nobody Loafs Me up in the corner with little like unhappy, I guess those are like mistletoe berries. It's a bite-sized eyeshadow palette. So the edge of the palette has the 8 shades inside, and as you can see, they're very cutely named. Want a Piece of Me, Rum For The Hills, Candied Pineapple, Haters Gonna Cake, Frosty Buns, Cherry, Nobody Loafs Me, and Forbidden Fruitcake. So it's a very neutral palette for the most part, but you do have some shades you can play with and create a more dramatic look. I don't think the picture on the website or the shades on the edge of the box here are really color accurate, so we'll look at those in a second. But again, just taking a look at the palette, that side doesn't really say anything, that's just blank. So it says this is bulk made in the USA, assembled in the Dominican Republic. Not sure if that's really gonna focus. And then I think, I don't know if those marks are just my hands being a little lotiony. Yeah, but I think this just basically says the same thing as the website. The total net weight is 5.6 grams. And then it has the ingredients. It says avoid getting into eyes. So that's great. Okay, so let's take a look at the inside of this palette. So inside you just have, I guess, a little bit of cardboard around it, and then that is the actual palette. So you can kind of see the size of this compared to the packaging. The Naked Mini palette, which I'm just comparing to because it's another like smaller palette that has launched recently. And I think this is the same size as the earlier Naked Minis. But again, they are very similar in size. Too Faced is a bit taller, but you are getting 2 additional shades in that palette. Okay, so we have the nice tin packaging. It says Forbidden Fruitcake, and it has all the elements of a fruitcake. And then on the back, you have the shade names, and again, it has like the net weight, where it's made, and the warning to avoid getting it into your eyes. And I like that they included a little graphic there. So it does have the shade names on the actual palette, but they aren't on the inside. So I think that's a fair compromise when you are making something kind of this small and you're trying to make it kind of very compact. So it does have a decent sized mirror to it, as you can see. It's a pretty good one. I mean, it's not like a play mirror by any means. It doesn't have any protector or anything on it, but yeah, so that is the mirror. And then those are the shades. So I think for the most part, the top row looks pretty true to what you see on the website. This, what is this called? Frosty Buns shade looks a little lighter on the website. I'm not sure if the camera might be blowing it out a little bit. But I think the biggest difference is this cherry shade. It's a lot like pinker in person than it is on the website. On the website, it looks much kind of richer and red in color. So this is probably like a more wearable shade for a lot of people, but I just wanted to give you a good look at those shades so you get a better idea of the color difference. Okay, so that is the palette. And as I've done in my previous videos, I will swatch the mattes using a Refer number 2 brush, which is a natural hair little shader that is very similar to the MAC 239. And for the shimmers and metallics, I will use the Refer number 21 brush, which I think is a dupe for the MAC 242, I want to say. So I will use those brushes. In between, I will remove the pigment using this little Sigma sample that is very similar, I think, to the Sigma Color Switch. So this was a sample of their kind of original brush cleaning glove that you can use to wash your brushes, but now they've also made something specifically for kind of removing color in between different eyeshadow applications. And then for the shimmer shades, I will use the Tarte Maracuja Miracle Mist, and I will use a primer. So I will be using the Lorac Behind the Scenes Eye Primer because, as you can see, I have a lot of these kind of samples, so it's easy for me to apply that to a large surface area like my arm. I think that is it. Okay, so I think I'll do the top row and then remove those and do the bottom row. I always reapply the primer and let it set. And I like to start with a finger swatch and then do a brush swatch with this Refer number 2 brush if it's a matte. If it's a shimmer, I'll do a dry brush and then I'll mist it with the Tarte spray and do a wet brush swatch. Okay, so the first shade here is Want a Piece of Me, which is a banana cream matte. So that is fairly close to my skin tone, so I'm not sure how well that is going to show up. I like having a shade like this in the palette because it's good for setting a primer or blending out any edges, obviously because it is like my skin tone, so it works for me. It may be more of a highlight on other skin tones. So again, you can't really see those that well, but there we go. The next shade is called Rum For The Hills, and this is a dark caramel matte. So This one feels a little bit drier. So that is Rum For The Hills. You can see it's a little bit more kind of smooth and a little bit lighter with the brush swatch, and I think you would typically apply a matte shade with a brush, so I think that applied just fine. The next one is Candied Pineapple, and this is an antique gold with rose gold glitter shimmer. Let's see what this one looks like. Very pretty, very reflective shade. I was worried that it would be a little bit too much of a topper shade, but I think you get a nice kind of underlying intensity of color there. So going in with my dry rougher number 21. Okay, so this might be one that you do want to apply with a finger. And as I always say, if you don't want to use a finger for whatever reason, either you have long nails or you just don't want to get your fingers dirty, those little kind of foam tip applicators that you can buy from Ulta are the best, I think, approximation of a finger. So you are able to build that up, but you might want to do your eyes first because you might get some fallout with that. All right, so loading up the brush and misting it. I like to try to kind of get the pigment on the brush and then wet it because I don't want to change the consistency of the eyeshadows if I can help it in the pan. So hopefully you can see, I think you get just a tad bit more shine with the wet brush than you do with the dry brush. All right, and then the last shade here, this is the shade Haters Gunna Cake. And this is a chocolate brown matte. Just knocking off some of that fallout. So this is a bit darker, a bit more cool toned than the other kind of matte brown. I almost wish they had taken that one a little bit lighter, but maybe since we have that other kind of peachy brown shade, we'll see how that one swatches. So obviously nothing kind of revolutionary in the color story of this row. But I think you could definitely create a pretty kind of caramel brown eye with that. Okay, so one more look at this row. There are 3 mattes and only one kind of metallic shade. Okay, so I've re-primed my arm and going into the first shade of the second row. This is called Frosty Buns and it's a ballet pink shimmer. So to me this is maybe a tad dark for a ballet shimmer, but it's a very pretty pink color. And let's go in with this brush. Again, this is a dry brush. These shimmers are, I think, a little kind of crumbly, so I would definitely recommend kind of tapping them on with your finger. You can see that one got a little bit more product. So really, I don't think there's a huge difference in the way they appear. I would say the finger just gives you kind of less fallout. Okay, so going in next to Cherry, and they call this a burgundy matte. So I guess you could call this burgundy. I typically think of burgundy as being darker. I don't know if that's correct or not. But I just wanted to point out that it is a little bit different in person than it may appear. So that is Cherry. And then next up we have Nobody Loafs Me, which they call a light tan metallic. I think that must be a typo. I think on me that's like a transition or crease shade. Again, I kind of wish there was something maybe just in between those two shades, but that's just me. And then last but not least, we have Forbidden Fruitcake. Which they call a medium brown with shifting emerald green glitter metallic. So that is a mouthful. Again, I think this is kind of one of the more common like duochrome type shades on the market. Then going in with dry brush. Oh, you can see I got some flecks there. Still applies pretty well though. You get a much stronger kind of metallic reflect with this wet brush though. All right, so one more look at this row. And that is going to do it. So I like to give you kind of a final look at the actual palette after I've finished swatching it, just in case the swatching process completely destroys an eyeshadow. But yeah, I don't think this is anything revolutionary, but it is a very cute little palette that I think has a lot of wearable tones that will appeal to a lot of people. So I think this would be a cute little stocking stuffer or a gift for a friend, or if you just want something kind of cute and seasonal to look at throughout the holiday season. So yeah, make sure to check to see if that code will still work, because I think it's obviously better to get 20% off of anything, really. I'm not sure if this will be coming to other retailers anytime soon, but it is available at Ulta at the moment. So hopefully this should be a fairly short and sweet video for you all, at least for me. Let me know if you plan on picking up this palette or if it doesn't appeal to you at all. So please subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content. I hope you all are staying very safe and healthy, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.